Cornwall Council needs to find £154 million over the next 3 years. Its own auditors say there is a high risk that won't happen. The council has already had to draw £9.1 million from reserves after previous savings failed to materialise. And hidden elsewhere in the same audit reports are warnings about weaknesses in contract management and procurement controls. So how serious are the risks facing Cornwall Council's finances? When Cornwall Council's Audit Committee met in May 2026, the headline sounded reassuring. The Chief Internal Auditor gave an overall opinion of reasonable assurance on the Council's governance, risk management, and internal controls. In audit language, that means the system is broadly working. But auditors do not just look for what is working, they look for what could go wrong. And inside the detail were 2 recurring concerns. The first was money. The second was control. Cornwall Council's medium-term financial plan requires approximately £154 million of savings between 2026 and 2029. That's £59.1 million in 2026 to 27, £48.8 million in 2027 to 2028. And £46.1 million in 2028 to 29. The Council's auditors examined the systems used to monitor those savings and concluded the monitoring process itself was functioning. But when they looked at whether the savings were actually likely to be achieved, they reached a different conclusion. The audit report assigns a high risk rating to delivery. Why? Because the savings required during 2025/26 were not achieved in full. To balance the books, Cornwall Council drew £9.1 million from its financial sustainability reserve. The auditors describe reserves as a mitigant, not a long-term solution, and they warn that many of the easier savings opportunities have already been exhausted. Their conclusion could hardly be clearer. There is a high risk that the required savings will not be delivered in each of the 3 years. For residents, this is not simply an accounting issue. The council must continue delivering services while closing substantial budget gaps. If planned savings do not arrive, pressure increases elsewhere in the financial system. The challenge facing Cornwall Council is therefore not whether savings are required. It is whether savings on this scale can actually be delivered, and the auditors are not convinced. The second major concern involves contract management. This area received a limited assurance opinion. Auditors found compliance with the Council's own contract management model was inconsistent. They found uncertainty among officers about how the framework should be applied. And perhaps most notably, Cornwall Council still has no corporate electronic contract management system. Instead, oversight relies on manual spreadsheet-based processes. The auditors warned that this creates governance, statutory compliance, and value for money risks. Importantly, this was not an isolated finding. Similar themes appeared elsewhere. Cornwall Housing and Treveth also saw similar findings covering contract management and procurement. The pattern appears more than once. And that is why auditors paid attention. Earlier in 2026, the Local Government Association conducted a corporate peer challenge. Its central observation was the gap between Cornwall Council's ambitions and its capacity to deliver them. Different review, different reviewers. Yet concerns pointing in a similar direction. Financial sustainability, organisational capacity, and oversight of council-owned companies. None of these reports allege wrongdoing. None suggest the council's governance framework is failing. In fact, the overall audit opinion remains reasonable assurance. But the warnings are now on the record. Cornwall Council's auditors have identified the risks. They have identified the pressure. And they have identified the warning signs. The question now is not whether the challenge exists. The question is whether Cornwall Council can prove the auditors wrong. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to this channel to be notified of other investigations and reports from cornwallpoliticalwatch.com.